Hello, hello, and good day, everyone! Welcome to Drakan the Ancient Gates Rynn only playthrough part 0, where I am going to go over the controls and some terminology regarding the key glitches that are necessary to learn in order to complete the game without Arokh. Given that this is a playthrough separate from my glitch tutorial series, some of you watching may not have seen or heard of the glitches that'll be mentioned here in this video. And this is to help you understand what is going on throughout the playthrough proper. So, for those of you who haven't seen my glitch tutorial series, welcome. For those of you who have seen them but need a refresher, also welcome. For everyone else, also welcome. So the glitches covered here will be properly timestamped for your easy perusal. But essentially all the glitches that will be mentioned were discovered by the YouTuber Introverted Owl, save for one that I discovered myself and another that I created by combining one of Introverted Owl's glitches with another glitch from someone else, which resulted in something greater and was the final piece of the puzzle for Introverted Owl to complete his Rynn only playthrough. Just a brief mention here is that Introverted Owl is a recent face here in the Drakan community, coming to the scene on Christmas of 2021, which in all honesty was like a Christmas present we never knew we wanted until we received it. In just a little over a year, he has changed the course of how we would all play this game, with some of the greatest glitch discoveries this game has ever seen since the early years of 03 and 05. And now, we can complete the game with only Rynn. His channel focuses on fighting games and RPGs in general, so there is a wide library of games in which he has tried out, aside from my beloved Drakan. So, a link to his channel and his Rynn only playthrough in the description down below. And without further ado, let's begin by discussing the important difference between a couple of key terms that Introverted Owl aptly coined world platforms and decorative platforms. World platforms and decorative platforms. It's important to know the difference, and the difference boils down to that you can teleport through one and not the other. Now, world platforms themselves are essentially, for the most part, is when you have an outer limit behind said world platform. You can't go any lower. Though there are exceptions to the rules, such as there are some platforms in buildings that you can't teleport through, as well as the same thing is true in regards to the floating islands. Again, all those locations don't have outer limits below them, but yet they perform like world platforms. There is also a difference in being able to tell how she behaves, in which, like how her character animation behaves in regards to what platform you're on and into what trick you're trying to pull off. So speaking of tricks or whatnot, let's go over the controls. So the controller that we're using is standard controls. So whatever control configuration you are using, you can use this as a reference here to be able to know if I'm referring to these button combinations, then depending if you're using different controls, you'll be able to figure out and basically replace my button configurations with the button configurations that you are using. All right, without further ado, again, standard controls, let us go ahead and resume here. Now, the best way to learn the difference between decorative platforms and world platforms is figuring out as to what you are on. Well, if you're not sure, there is one way you can test this out, and that is through what's called the quick turn. Now, when on world platforms, when performing a quick turn, well, first and foremost, we're going to perform a Barani, the 180-degree front flip, which is basically on the D-pad, back, forward, and then triangle. Oh, hold on. Back, forward, triangle. There we go. We're going to interrupt that with square. So instead of back, forward, triangle, it's going to be back, forward, triangle, square. Back, forward, triangle, square. This is known as the quick turn, and also what's called the who turn. I prefer calling it the who turn. It was originally kind of more of a joke reference when Introverted Owl unveiled this glitch. But I am keeping it. We're calling this the Who turn. And so basically, you're able to move faster than what you can rotate around. Comes in handy in some situations or whatnot, as well as even combat potential, going like back forward triangle square and then going to right into a combo. Now let's go ahead and head on up here. We're going to show a kind of a, if we're on a decorative platform, like say we're going up here. Oh wait, I want to go see the blacksmith. Hold on a second. We perform what's called the Who teleport, because it performs differently when we're on a decorative platform. So since I teleported through the ground, I am on a decorative platform. There is one exception to the rule here. Let's talk about on basically how the teleportation works and behaves. Now, the important thing to note for a Who teleport, when trying to teleport through, like say, this decorative platform, if the nearest world platform is actually a slippery slope, a piece of land that Rynn can't actually traverse over, then instead of teleporting through the ground and instead of performing a normal quick turn, this is what happens. This shows that Rynn wants to teleport through the ground, but you can't. She cannot teleport through the ground. That's because, again, the slope below us is slippery. So now the other thing too, when doing a Who teleport, we don't need to use the Branny. We can also just do backwards. We can do side flips as well as sideways tunnel flips. So let's go ahead and find this platform we can teleport down. There we go. And see, and eventually, once we got into land that we can actually traverse on, a world platform that we can traverse on, we were finally able to teleport. Also, on a side note, we can safely teleport into water using the Who teleport. There is another glitch in which we can teleport, but we would not be able to safely teleport. Instead, it would soft lock the game. So just keep this in the back of the mind. We'll talk about that in a bit. With a better understanding of decorative and world platforms, as well as the glitches of Who turn and Who teleport, we are now going to move on to talk about the dash. First and foremost, we need to know how to do a sideways tunnel flip, which is basically strafing forward at an angle and then pressing triangle. Whichever direction is more comfortable for you, you'll use that for the to do a dash. Now, just like the Who turn, where we interrupted the Branny with square, we are going to do instead, we're going to do a sideways tunnel flip and interrupt it with circle, which is counter in this case. And with that, we're going to tilt the control stick then forward to maximize speed and distance. And we're also going to hold circle. We don't actually need to hold circle to do a dash state, but it's a good habit to get into because later on we're going to talk about the Rynn Dash and it'll become imperative to hold circle. So for practice sakes, let's go ahead and just say for the dash state, we need to hold circle. Now, with that being said, in the dash state, we can then combine it into a jump called a dash jump. Not really anything spectacular, given that you can do that normally, but in this dash jump, we can then press and hold triangle and then hit square to perform a double jump. A double jump will be able to get to ledges, higher ledges. It will be able to jump across chasms a lot easier, and off ledges, we can actually jump off, hold triangle, and then press square to safely descend down. Sometimes it'll go into a double jump, sometimes it'll just do that, but regardless, you'll be able to safely descend down. Again, holding forward is imperative so you can make sure you can maximize your distance. But just be careful that you make sure that you press and hold triangle, and then while holding triangle, hit square. Because if you let go of triangle, or if you hit square before triangle, you perform the Rynn Hara-Kiri, in which case you'll cause Rynn's immediate death. Now, when you're able to master the double jump, you can use it to do what's called dash clipping. Dash clipping is when you're trying to get inside a door like this, or any object that causes Rynn to recoil just like that. See how she recoils with her arms? Be able to bypass through doors, locked doors or whatnot, or sometimes certain walls, or anything that basically you get that situation where she recoils her arms. And again, like going back through here, we just perform it again. But this doesn't work everywhere. You just gotta look for that recoil, or actually just having her phase through the door. because sometimes Rynn doesn't recoil with her arms, but she is still bypassing through the door. So that's really what you're looking for, is her going through. But if you got the recoil with the arms, it really means that she can bypass through the door. Now you cannot double jump off of a decorative platform, because just like with the Who teleport, if you do a dash jump, you will teleport through this platform to the nearest world platform. But unlike with the Who teleport, if we do so over water, well, what's going to happen is this. So basically, if we do a dash jump teleport here, or if we dash jump off of a ledge into the water without doing a double jump, you will soft lock the game. If you look at the oxygen meter, Rynn can't even die to this, as the oxygen meter is not ticking down. But thankfully, this is just a soft lock, as we can just pause the game and load back to a previous save. Now let's talk about the most broken aspect of the Dash family of glitches, and that is the Rynn Dash. So we know how to perform a dash state, but in order to maintain that dash state, I told you that we want to hold circle. Just get into practice of that, because now it's important to hold circle, as we're now going to use a shield. So basically, we're going to interrupt with shield, and then we're going to tap the control stick forward repeatedly, like this, to have her maintain the dash. And look how fast she's traveling. And look, I can even tap it at this speed. You don't have to tap it really fast to maintain it. But if you do not let it go back to neutral, the control stick to go back to neutral, you will fall out of the Rynn Dash. You will also fall out of the Rynn Dash if you collide into any walls and enemy objects, or if you collide with a steep slope. In order to, if you're going to crash into something, you can use strafe controls, or you can tap back on the control stick to be able to still maintain a dash, even if you crash into an inanimate object or bump into one. Now, the Rynn Dash, before the Rynn Dash, we used to have to do what's called, I'm going to call it now bow canceling, but I didn't discover this. I saw this over in video over on Twitch by Puffy SC, when one of his original speed runs of Drakan, as well as Puffy is also known on YouTube. But this is basically what it is. We just spam R1, or if we have items in the hot slot aside from the bow, we can just spam square and R1 to get this similar job done. But now, that's roughly obsolete. Though I might still use it, since I'm going to do a magic archer run. I might use some bow canceling, but for right now, just look at this. This is incredible. Of all the things that you can really pull off with this. And also, this opens up so many other things, such as even having Rynn fly through the air. So let's go ahead and get to higher ground and talk about that. Now, performing and maintaining the Rynn Dash off a decorative platform or a world platform with a 90-degree drop or greater, we can fly through the air with it. This opens up the game. We can get to places that Rynn couldn't get to even with Arokh's help. Now, while holding circle, if we want to drop down somewhere, we can press X to immediately drop out of the dash to drop over like onto this balcony over here. Then also while flying through the air, if we then, while holding circle, press triangle, we can teleport to the ground. Just like a dash jumping through a decorative platform, we can teleport down to the world platform while flying through the air. Just be careful not to do it over water because, well, again, soft locking the game. But rather be a decorative platform or a world platform, here one with a 90-degree drop, we can then just simply fly through the air with this. This is amazing. Now, careful not to get too close to a world platform or else you'll fall out of it. And like there, I slid down to my death. But speaking of sliding down on slopes, there's actually a way to climb with using the Rynn Dash. So let's go ahead and talk about that. To dash climb, you need a slope that when you jump on it, Rynn slides down. If you have a slope that you jump at and you do not slide down, instead you just gravitate back towards the ground, you cannot dash climb. You cannot dash climb up this slope. It will not let you. But if we go to a slope like here, we can perform what's called a dash climb. So what's going to happen is Rynn is going to dash up. Now, if we have a shield, we can maintain that. But the one problem with this is that when we dash climb up, the problem is maintaining it. When the altitude changes on you, usually when you go from, like, say here and then up there, this line that's right here, you can't cross over that. Which, again, if we were to dash against a slope, you will fall out of it. It just behaves just like a wall or other objects. So what do we do instead? Well, we just tilt back on the control stick. Let's see if we can get this turn this way a little bit. Come on. Okay, tilt forward, dash forward. Come on, let's climb a little more. I kind of got stuck here. Oh, there we go. See if I can get this going again. Okay, so the one thing with this, again, I couldn't quite get up this slope, but what I utilize is basically tilting back on the control stick to maintain it. But when you tilt back on the control stick, you lose momentum in the Rynn Dash, and sometimes you need that momentum to keep going. So alternate between the two. Be quick though. So there, go forward, there, forward, there. Woo! Again, alternating between the two. Use back to maintain it, forward to keep it, to get yourself more momentum. And just interchange between the two, and you can start scaling up slopes like this. I haven't completely mastered it just yet, but oh my gosh, that used to be impossible for me to do. I couldn't figure that out. But again, I looked at some Introverted Al's videos, tried to practice what he was doing, and I'm finally able to get up to here. I'm quite happy with how I can. I'm hoping to be able to tackle that slope that leads into Shaza and Tora. That gave me heck. Okay, now with another part of this, I don't think I can get up higher. No, I can't. Okay, another thing that we can do here is call, well, it doesn't really have a name, but if we dash and we do strafe controls or tilting back on the control stick, we can go down. Oh, come on, Rynn Dash here. We can dash down slopes safely. Whee! Without taking any damage. This obsoletes the Aneurysma slide jump glitch unless you find yourself sliding down a slope and you press triangle repeatedly to save yourself from certain death. But this works on all slopes, no matter how steep. You can go down any slope, and as long as you're tilting back on the control stick or strafe controls, you will not fall out of it, and you will just go down to the bottom safe and sound. No matter if you go from the tallest peak to the lowest valley, you will be safe, and it'll be one heck of a ride. Now, flight dashing, though, as much as it opens the game and be able to explore so many areas, there's one problem. We can't go any higher, and we can't go any lower. Well, I mean, that's not what I meant. We can't ascend or descend with the Rynn Dash. We can only, well, with flight dashing, we can only maintain the same height as our decorative platform. Now, that is the crux of the problem that prevented Introverted Al from completing his Rynn-only playthrough, was the fact that when you get to Stratos, you start at the lowest island, and the highest point that can be done for flight dashing was not high enough to get to the other islands to be able to advance the game. And even if we did dash climb high enough, dash climbing off of islands would just result in doing dash sledding instead of Rynn flight, and getting us to a lower point until we do Rynn flights, which at that point it defeats the whole purpose. So it was pretty much the Rynn-only playthrough was just put on hold until something could be discovered that allowed us to do it. And lo and behold, I was able to discover something in regards to one of the glitches that Introverted Al has discovered that he thought was kind of just a neat trick, but useless altogether. And another glitch back from 2010. So let's talk about the Introverted Owl's glitch, which is called Menu Glide. Now, menu gliding is another variant of the dash, and as such, we just need to put Rynn into a dash state. We don't necessarily need a shield for this, but all we need to do is put Rynn into a dash state and then press select. And then we can have Rynn glide across the ground. So if we enter, exit, glide, we can move forward. But if we exit, enter, glide, and we can move backwards. We can control Rynn with a control stick and move her around, and we can keep this up indefinitely as long as we don't have her glide too much and she'll fall out of it. And the thing about menu gliding is that you can glide across the sky with it. The problem is that it is very slow in comparison to flight dashing. So, as it was, menu gliding by itself doesn't get any higher than what flight dashing does. So, what's the point in doing menu gliding when you can just flight dash? Well, let's now talk about the glitch from 2010, discovered by Skonekiller, known as Magic Glide. As described by Skonekiller from GameFAQs, to perform a Magic Glide, all you need to do is ready an attack spell, perform a sideways tunnel flip, and press circle to spell cancel anytime during the jump animation to glide through the air. Canceling the spell towards the end of the jump will maximize distance, and canceling it at its peak will maintain that height over a longer distance than a backflip could accomplish. It was our way to get around before dashing with the thing, but hold on. Speaking of dashing, I am canceling a sideways tunnel flip with circle in order to Magic Glide. This sounds strangely familiar, right? Is the Magic Glide a variant of the dash? Well, to test this out, I tried to see if I could menu glide from it, and lo and behold, we can. Not only that, but did you see Rynn get pulled down to the ground? This confirms that the Magic Glide is part of the Dash family of glitches. Learning this, I had an epiphany. Can I use the Magic Glide off of a cliff or hill to then transition into a menu glide in the air? Again, lo and behold, it worked! The world platform slopes away from Rynn as she glides, thus allowing her to have enough distance between her and the nearest world platform to menu glide in the air, higher up than the ground she jumped from. This breakthrough discovery of this glitch combo is now known as the Magic Menu Glide, which was the final piece of the puzzle for Introverted Owl to complete his Rynn-only playthrough. And the rest is history. Now let's talk about a couple of other glitches to finish off this glitch tutorial pre-playthrough video and get to the actual playthrough. Now, one of the glitches that I discovered that we're going to utilize in this Rynn-only playthrough is what I call Phantom Rolling. Phantom Rolling is when we use sideways tunnel flips to force Rynn into the ground, and then she can roll through objects. So, to do this, we need to get into a place that's going to interrupt her sideways tunnel flips. And to better enhance this, we can use a Who turn. We don't necessarily need to use a Who turn, but a Who turn can help us doing a Who teleport to teleport through objects, thus making a more ideal situation to be able to perform our sideways tunnel flips if we are able to get the objects. So let's get underneath this candlestick. Now let's try to perform it. There we go. Once we're shoulder height, we can roll. And when we're able to roll through a wall or whatnot, we can roll through here. We can roll behind the alchemist's counter. We can join our friends over here behind the bars here. We can go through the bookcases. Or we can do one of my most favorite things that we can do is access his balcony. Just like we do with Jade's balcony, we can then go inside here and be able to be up on the balcony. Oh my gosh. The last item of discussion is a combat trick regarding the bow. Given that we're doing a magic archer run, it's going to be really fun and important to know. So basically, what we're going to be talking about is called instant arrow shot. I haven't showcased in my glitch tutorial series, but as with most of these glitches, this was discovered by Introverted Owl, in which case we can send out a volley of arrows. I mean, I'm talking about like emptying a magazine. Now, of course, I'm not really fast or whatnot with this, and honestly, I bet if you could do this with a taskbot, it'll probably come out the over at the enemies. Trust me, it's insane. So let's go ahead and I want me to show you guys how to do basically kind of like a double shot or even triple shot if you're lucky. So basically you go into sight mode and then square followed by circle and then square again. See that? And you can even do 3 or 4 shots off in one go if you're lucky or at that. But to pull off the instant arrow shot, what we're going to need to utilize is not only square and circle, but we're going to hit square and X at the same time, followed by circle, circle again, and then square and X, circle, circle, square and X, and then like doing that over and over again. So basically what we're going to end up with look how insane this is. Can you imagine? I mean, sure, I have some I have some arrows going off in other directions, but can you imagine a higher damage output bow and just hitting that enemy? They're going to charge straight at you, and they're going to be dead before they even make the halfway point. Now, if you want to utilize this rapid fire on enemies that are above you or below you, you're going to need to input an extra command, which is basically it'll go to X and square together, followed by circle, and then R2. Again, X and square together, circle, circle, R2. To be able to snipe at enemies that are above or below you. I haven't been able to master this yet, because again, this one requires precise and quick button inputs. Previously, on the one I've been doing straight across for myself, I've basically been spamming. I'm not doing precise button commands, I'm just spamming. So it's going to be a bit more of a learning curve for me, because I'm not quick and precise, hence why I'm not good at fighting games. So I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to master that variant later on, though it would be cool to try to use that against dragons and have them fall from the sky as multiple arrows hit them square in the chest. Now, speaking of dragons, particularly dealing with bone dragons, griffins, and the shadow dragons, you are allowed to use God mode in this playthrough. For me in particular, I'm going to try to limit God mode to sections that I don't need to use it, particularly when doing melee combat or whatnot. But when it comes to dealing with dragons, I will try to use my bow. If I'm having trouble, I will use God mode. Again, as Introverted Owl stated, for this playthrough, you can use God mode. And speaking of God mode, let's go ahead and go over the button inputs. So to do God mode, we just activate the cheat code for it, which you can find over in GameFAQs, but here we go. L1 hold, R2 hold, L2 hold, R1 hold, while holding those buttons. X down, triangle up, circle right, square left. And there we go. I love that you, when doing the codes in Drakan, you don't have to be fast with it. As long as you know the inputs, you can go as slow as you want, and as long as you input them correctly, you get the cheat to work. So, with that being said, that is it for this kind of tutorial session before getting into the actual playthrough. So now we can go ahead and conclude things here, and we can go ahead and move on to the actual playthrough. So, before that, let's conclude this video. Like, comment, subscribe, and as always, have a great life, everyone. Let's get this playthrough started! Yeah!